So we're doing it live.
Doing it live.
Best
And
way.
so I guess this will be the final interview of the day or something, even though we did like a kind of like closing time poetry thing. So we're here with Harry from NIM Project. And today Harry did a talk. NIM is a Mixnet, among other things, having to do with the topic of privacy. Could you just give us the, if I'm 5 years old, quick synopsis of what it is?
Yeah. So like, if you think about it, so there's this old joke on the internet where it's like, websites are really insecure. And so when you connect a website using TLS, it's sort of like it's like two websites are so insecure. It's basically like, they're like homeless people. Anyone can just like walk in. If you're a homeless guy living on a bench, someone could just like, steal your shit. But when you use TLS, it's like, using an armored truck to communicate money between like two homeless dudes living on benches. And the way I like to think about it is Bitcoin and most cryptocurrencies are like the reverse, right? So you have all these people like, oh, yeah, we got to secure the chain, secure the bag. They're working really hard to like secure their keys and the chain itself. But what the most insecure part of most blockchain systems goes for Bitcoin, goes for Zcash, goes for everybody, Monero, is usually the peer-to-peer broadcast itself is like unauthenticated. Anyone, NSA, but also let's be very real here. Chainalysis can just like watch that broadcast, capture that data, and use that to like de-anonymize you, try to do these eclipse attacks, or you like split things. So the way I think about it is like blockchain is like reverse. We got two dudes who have like, we got a Fort Knox here to protect our digital gold, but people are like sending out their like broadcasts using paper airplanes, and we could at least be using pigeons, ideally something even more secure like a stealth fighter. And so NIM is like the stealth fighter that goes and makes sure that your digital gold gets in and out the Fort Knox correctly. And yeah, we're basically like, Tor. Uh, Tor is like this kind of anonymous internet system built off of U.S. government funding back in the day, and it's pretty good, particularly for web browsing. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't like defeat or scramble the pattern of packets being sent across the network. So if I'm like watching a Tor entry node and watching a Tor exit node, I can correlate when packets are sent at what time and use that to de-anonymize the transactions. And so we're trying to build something that can't be possible. It's called a Mixnet, invented back in like the 90s, like most other things by David Chom. Actually, I think maybe 80s for Mixnets. But we've made a kind of high-speed one. It's very generic, and we want to attach it to your chain.
So so that's definitely something different than, if people are listening, like a privacy coin like Monero or whatever. With that, still you would have what you're talking about. You're still using a paper airplane to broadcast the transmission, or what? How would you do? How would you? The first thing I just want to differentiate is, what's the different? Why do I need that? I've already, like, some at the real beginner level, they might say, why do I need that? I've got Zcash, or I've got a privacy coin. Aren't I protected?
So you can just like sit there and you can just like actually capture these packets live. Like I'm going to send you some Bitcoin. I can like, some Zcash, some Monero. I can capture those packets live using off-the-shelf software, Wireshark. I can combine that Wireshark with the software-defined radio, and I can really cover the whole area. And that's really dangerous. And I can block your transactions. And it's all sorts of nasty stuff you can do. And like we like the Monero community. They're really cool, very creative. I'm really a big fan of the Atlantis update. I'm a big fan of a lot of their work. I feel how I say it, they're like just a little bit less pretentious than the Zcash community. And the Zcash community had all these huge bugs, and it was like, oh, and like Monero community, they're like, yo, it's not a bug, it's an opportunity to fix Monero. And I really like that. And the Monero community is not, they've been aware of this network level problem for a while. I think of it like, the problem with a lot of community efforts is they were trying to hook up I2P, which is like this invisible internet project, which is cool, to Monero. I think it was called Covery. I think it was sometime last year. And the problem with Covery and I2P and a lot of these things. Well, I2P is it's better than nothing. It's like you better. It's like um, it's definitely better than nothing. And even with Mimblewimble, it's like, yo, you guys should use Tor. It's better than nothing. But the problem with all these technologies, even though they say, oh, it's really decentralized and peer-to-peer, they all rely on sort of DHTs, crazy code made by people who don't, that's at least with the I2P, like no one really knows exactly what it does. And this makes it really hard to give strong privacy and anonymity guarantees. So with NIM, we're hoping to have like something that's really easy to hook into, like Tor, that you can just ship IP packets in there, and it gives them that kind of protection against NSA and Chainalysis. Which, to be honest, Monero had some difficulty with the I2P integration, and even with Tor, it's like you get it, but do you really trust Tor? And so I think we can do better, and we hope to be hanging out with Monero folks as much as possible in the future.
I was gonna also, I mean, also another common question. I mean, you've already heard it a lot. Is okay, yeah, but I can use a VPN. You already answered I2P. I've had that question a lot. What's the main difference? Sounds like I2P, but you're doing it different. But what if some people that are concerned with privacy might be using VPNs
Yeah.
and things like that. So how
I mean,
would
VPN's
I?
like better than nothing, but it's still just like basically like I'm just like how a
Right.
VPN works. It's like with Tor, it's like I have my packet, I give it to you, you're gonna hand it. Well, pretend he's still there. You'd hand it to him, and he'd hand it to some third
Yeah.
guy, and you throw it out.
Well,
A VPN, I'm just like I'm handing all my packets to you. So what if you're
right.
like the CIA VPN? Then it's like I just got
Dun dun dun.
yeah, which literally
And
happened.
Tor nodes doubled after Snowden.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
there's been some maybe some infiltration there, more listening than before.
You got to be careful with these kind of networks, and particularly VPNs. If I gave all my network traffic to you, you could be like, "Fuck you! I'm gonna just steal all that," and there's nothing I can do. And even if you gave it to the rest of the network, you could just copy it all down. There's very little I can do. So that you've seen a lot of people go to jail because the VPN provider is like, "Oh yeah, don't worry, trust us, man. Like we're like hide your ass."
We
But
had some.
they totally happy to give logs to the feds.
Yeah, there's quite a few that do give data. So I think there's not many, like, is it PIA's one? I think there's
It's all about you should not have the logs. Then when
Yeah.
they ask for the logs, you don't have the logs.
Yeah.
So,
So-
just no logs.
Yeah, you got to make a system where you can't even take logs. And so
Yeah.
what a Mixnet does, it uses this packet format, same thing used in Lightning, where the packet format itself is like effectively makes all packets the same size, and the Mixnet then scrambles the timing, so you don't know who you're getting it from, you don't know where it's going, and it all looks the same. So even if someone did get asked you for the log would be completely fucking useless. So I think that's the kind of system we should support. Like, I don't know. I mean, again, a VPN's probably better than nothing, but you want to be really careful with these things.
It sounds like a similar idea to confidential transactions where, if you're sending around $1 million on the network, there's only a certain number of people who really have $1 million. So just based on that fact alone, I can say, oh, you must be one of these people.
Yeah,
But if
gotta
you
be
could
one of the
send
big
around,
players.
if you could send around a question mark of number of Bitcoin, then it's like, I have no idea if you're rich or you're poor or how to classify you. So
Yeah, so we just do the same stuff that people are trying to do on the chain level, on the network level. And these are, complementary. How do you say, like ebony and ivory? They
Right.
kind of go together.
So NIM isn't competing against Monero or Bitcoin or
No, we're below
whatever.
the chain.
Right. So all of these projects can benefit from NIM. It's not a competitor. It's a more of an addition that you could use with any of these other technologies.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of people, I have a lot of respect for the Tor community, but let's face it, it's all funded by large grants, and that's not really sustainable. Particularly the grants coming from the State Department, and then you've had all this like SJW fest going on over there, and it's like when all that sort of this kind of catastrophic stuff starts happening, I think it's time for more like economic incentives to come into the game, because I think in the long run, like people are like, oh, we can't trust it, But we know from Bitcoin that economic incentives work, and I think it's about time we applied those incentives to like the network level. Like we applied the chain, we can also apply to other levels in our system. And what's the upside? I don't know, man. But like Tor came out, and after Tor, you got all sorts of amazing technologies, some very controversial, like WikiLeaks. But you also got all sorts of things that people didn't even think were imaginable. And we think that right now we're seeing a lot of Tor hidden services being taken down. We imagine what would it be like if you had something that was like even more powerful. What sorts of crazy things would people do? And I don't really care. I mean, for all I care, people can do whatever the hell they want. But the great thing is that whatever you do, it's cover traffic for the next guy. So you can protect me, and I can protect you, and I don't need to know who the hell you are. And that's the kind of network I like, where it's like, I love you, Theo, but I don't want to get like all up in your internet.
No, don't get up on my internet.
There's some sketchy stuff going on there.
No. It's my internet.
Well, and definitely what you were talking about before with the VPNs maybe stealing your traffic. I know of a situation where there was a startup and they were working in a co-working space and they were offered free internet from the co-working space. And it seemed like a really good deal. And boy, these guys are our friends and our pals and all that. And later on, I heard from a guy who heard from a guy who heard from a guy and all that. They might have just been sniffing and reselling that traffic from that startup. So it can be very dangerous. You have to keep an eye on what's valuable, and having a direct path to the internet that you pay for, that you maintain and control is very important, whether it's a VPN or even just your local Wi-Fi connection at your co-working space.
Yeah, like anything is better than any connection. You need to always make sure that first hop out's encrypted. So even though I think VPNs are pretty sketchy, I use a VPN.
Mm-hmm.
If people are looking for a free VPN, the Bitmask VPN is free, and it's pretty good. Doesn't works on Android and Linux pretty well.
I've heard you get what you pay for with VPN.
Yeah,
so if you're getting a free VPN,
well, it depends. I mean,
better than nothing.
Yeah,
but,
I'm kind of interested in how Proton VPN works out as well. It's a bit more expensive, but it does offer, I think.
We've also got Brave browser is launching some kind of VPN.
Yeah, so I
it's supposed to be free.
To Brendan last week. So Brendan, currently, I think they're doing. So we've been discussing about Brendan because Tor wanted people to just use Tor browser, not Tor with Brave. So they were like looking for alternatives, and they wanted a VPN. So they actually talked about them and Sentinel, which is another decentralized VPN project, and one of their blog posts. Like 2 or 3 days ago, they released VPN 0, which is essentially a TLS VPN, where you route using a DHT, and and they haven't actually coded that up to my knowledge. I talked to Brendan, they're like, oh, he's like, whatever, man, it's a research project. We're gonna just make it easy to use like centralized VPN services, but our goal is decentralized VPN services. And I think my critique of Brave's current plan is like, TLS, it's okay, it's encrypted, but you still reveal the pattern of traffic, so it's not actually that private. B, DHTs, there's ways to attack them and monitor them. Put someone like and get in your path basically in a peer-to-peer way.
Yep.
And that's kind of sketch. So I hope. But that being said, like I got a lot of respect for Brendan. I've talked a lot to the Brave team, and we want to make sure that Brave, which is my browser of choice, really offers something which is ideally both a VPN by default, but also like a private browsing mode, which is even more hardcore than the current browser mode and then the Tor private browser. I think that would be really something. So we hope to work with them on that front. But you never know, always Opera if that doesn't work out. So. Does anyone use Opera anymore?
No.
I know they got some crazy crypto like.
They've got a great bookmarking system.
Yeah, what is Opera?
I'm still on Netscape Navigator.
4.0.
So there were different parts of the NIM project, mainly the Mixnet, but there's also the credential system. So can you tell us, what is that and what is it used for, and give us some use case examples?
Yeah, so like if you want to pay for, so we just tried to copy to some extent Bitcoin. So Bitcoin that has the mining rewards. So we have like a mixing reward schedule working on, and there's also transaction fees and like key-based transaction stuff that are actually no one thinks about, but are like really crucial to get to keeping the ecosystem together. So a lot of like these kind of like weird Ethereum stuff, they also fail because they didn't really understand that properly. And while Nakamoto just had these like really good genius constants in his white paper, which he never really explained, we can kind of copy them to the extent and sort of say what we really want is we want to use a mixed network which rewards people for running traffic, but then again, like you want to take fees, but then you kind of got this like weird. I don't want to force people to use Zcash. I don't want to force people to use Monero. I don't want to force people to use any particular cryptocurrency. We just want to be able to take the fee in whatever friggin' cryptocurrency you happen to like. Like I prefer Bitcoin. I think other people have different things they prefer. There's even like some weird Litecoin guy hanging around outside. And
the guy in the chat likes BSV.
Yeah,
they're having a great time with him.
Yeah, I mean, fuck, man. I mean, I guess there's even a few people that like Bitcoin SV and Bitcoin Dark and Bitcoin Gold and Bitcoin
Theos,
Bitcoin
Vision and shit. Who knows, man. So I'm not gonna, I want to get as many people, because the more people that use a system, the more anonymous you are. And what we use is we have this credential system, which basically lets you take the fee out, and you can add any other data you want in there as well, and then you can anonymize it. And you anonymize it by basically taking the fee out, putting the fee in a particular kind of packet called an anonymous authentication credential. Then you show that credential, and that's your kind of right of access pass. It shows that you paid for the system, but no one knows anything about you. The Mixnet is just some packet that they re-randomize, so it's unlinkable with every hop. And that's, I think, Snowden was really into these right of access tokens. I know tokens are kind of fucked up, but I think like if it has some cryptographic utility, if it's a real thing like anonymous access credential, kind of like the word credential better, then it's like, I think that's legit. And that's what we're going to try to attach to the Mixnet, so we have the capabilities. Now, for some things, no one's going to pay a fee to send like a signal message, or God knows what like a more decentralized signal would be called. But so we want people to use network without fees. We also want people to have the ability to pay fees and to keep those fees indexed to whatever service or whatever cryptocurrency people like, because it's not our job to tell people what to pay in. It's not our job to tell people what they can do with the system. That being said, mixed nodes, they gotta get paid. Mama's gotta eat, so we gotta like make sure there's some way of getting some money out of the system. So.
Okay. And where can people learn more about this and follow your work?
Yeah, so we have a Telegram channel called NimChan, like 4chan, but instead it's NYM and then Chan, CHAN. You can jump in that for some like interaction stuff. If you don't like that, you're more anti-social, there's always Twitter. There's just at NIM Project, NYM Project, and then we got an old-fashioned website, nimtech.net, and we've got a secret dark website, but I'll let you guys figure that one out.
All right,
Ooh.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Harry.
Rock and roll. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you. Okay, are we over and out for World Crypto Network today, or what's going on?
Oh, we're gonna chat some more.
You're gonna chat more.
We'll kick Harry out. We'll talk to Theo and Dan
Okay.
for 5 minutes. Yeah. Oh, that NIM was such a mess. Using a Y instead of an I, so confusing.
Doesn't even make sense.
Spelling.
Man, you just like
Harry, no, you came over here.
How did you kidnap my?
You boys tied yourselves together there.
This is a
sharing
Mixnet
batteries
right now. Here's a Mixnet.
Why don't you take the?
Wonder how that happened.
A lot of bondage
My wire.
going on here.
Wonder.
All right. Thanks so much, man. We'll hang later.